Hello students, Mr. Young here with Chapter 21, Lesson 2. Today's lesson is called Spain's Conquests in the Americas, and it's actually one of the shortest lessons I've seen. It's only 4 pages in the textbook. Basically, we learn how the Spanish, though vastly outnumbered by indigenous people, managed to take out a few well-established empires in the Americas. How'd they do it? Let's find out. So when Columbus accidentally discovered the New World, he opened the door of opportunity for a number of poor Spanish nobles. These nobles would become conquistadors, seeking wealth in this uncharted new land. One such noble was Hernan Cortez. Now, in 1504, Cortez sailed to Hispaniola, one of the first places Columbus discovered, and 11 years later he would take part in the Spanish invasion of Cuba. Now, while in Cuba, Cortez learned about the Aztec, the richest people of the mainland in what we now call Mexico. In 1519, Cortez arrived in Mexico near the modern port of Veracruz with 508 soldiers, 100 sailors, 16 horses, and 14 cannons. He planned on taking on a whole empire. With that, how's this going to work? Well, not exactly. He had an ace in the hole. He had intel from a Mayan woman that told him all about the Aztec. The Aztec had subjugated local tribes, and these tribes would ally with the Spanish and rebel to take on the Aztec. You see, the Aztec had this practice of human sacrifice, and they liked to sacrifice their conquered people, like their prisoners. On top of this, the Aztec were unfamiliar with horses and guns, which the Spanish would use to great effect to scare them. Then there was the hidden weapon, smallpox, which would kill more Aztec than any gun or cutlass. That leads us to the defeat of the Aztec. You see the Spanish march inland toward the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan. Their movements were closely watched by the Aztec ruler Montezuma. But Montezuma did not attack. You see, at first he thought that Cortez might be this light-skinned Aztec god that had traveled back to reclaim his land. It was said this god did not like human sacrifices, so light skin, don't like human sacrifices. This is all lining up, but I guess Montezuma figured it out because as Cortez got closer, Montezuma planned an ambush. The problem for Montezuma is Cortez caught wind of this ambush or surprise attack, and it was foiled. By November 1519, Cortez had in fact seized control of Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital. And to prevent an uprising, because there were a lot of Aztecs, not a lot of Spanish, Cortez held Montezuma hostage. Then Cortez ordered the Aztecs to stop making human sacrifices. But this didn't go over very well, as the Aztec people started to rebel, and the Spanish were forced to fight their way out of the city. They were taking refuge in the nearby hills when there was a smallpox outbreak in the city, and a whole bunch of people died. In fact, so many people died that they were basically left unable to defend their city, and in 1521 the Spanish moved in and destroyed Tenochtitlan. There's a picture. And that leads us into Peru. So this Peru affair, the whole thing reeks. It's dirty. There was this conquistador, Balboa, and he was searching for a city of gold, kind of like they talk about in Indiana Jones, the last one, the one that was terrible. Now instead, Balboa found the Pacific Ocean, but some jerk accused him of treason, and he ended up being beheaded. So a guy that was underneath of him, an underling, if you will, became the head conquistador. His name was Francisco Pizarro. Now, Pizarro was uneducated, couldn't even read or write, but he was a good fighter, and that's what a conquistador needed to be good at. So on the chopping block of Pizarro and Balboa before him was a considerable force of the Inca Empire. So by the 1530s, the Incas had weakened somewhat. However, they still had 30,000 warriors, compared to Pizarro's force of 168 soldiers and only 1 cannon. Now, the Incas they weren't worried about Pizarro and his small force. But Pizarro had a plan. He invited the Inca ruler to a meeting, and part of the agreement was the Inca ruler could only come with 4,000 unarmed bodyguards. Pizarro, once there, demanded that this ruler give up their gods, and then the guy laughed at him, and then Pizarro ordered his men to open fire on Pizarro's 4,000 unarmed bodyguards. And they basically dragged this Inca ruler away. And then they had him executed on some charge of worshipping false gods and fermenting rebellion and crap like that. So they pretty much tricked them into submission. However, this didn't really work out that well. They did take out the Incas, but the Incas were fighting back for years. There was essentially an insurrection even after the death of Pizarro, all the way in 1541. Regardless, they did in essence take out the Aztecs and the Incas and establish the first sort of global empire in the name of Spain. So that's your lesson. There's going to be your standard quiz on the next page, 10 points, 5 questions. You'll get 2 attempts. That's it for today. Tomorrow we move into exploration and worldwide trade. There's a whole lot of economy and things like that. And that's a pretty long lesson. That's it. If you need anything, let me know.